What's up, everybody? It's Tanner with Built Not Bought. Welcome to the shop. I got a bunch of walnut here and we're about to make something beautiful. Thanks for watching. Now that I've got all of this beautiful walnut milled and ready to go, I'm going to do a quick layout for the top, put in my dominoes to make sure my glue up goes nice and smooth and bring everything inside. We are in the middle of a blizzard, so I brought everything inside into the garage to warm up, and then I'm going to start gluing it up now. I also bring my glue inside the house so that it's warm at room temperature, otherwise it won't set up. I pre-installed all of my dominoes to make the glue up go a little bit easier, and since nobody wants to sit and watch glue dry, I'm going to fast forward to afterwards where it's sanded and ready for the next step. It's not a terrible crack, but you can kind of see this little pith here, and you just have to imagine over time this is going to open up. So I'm going to bow tie it and then fill it with epoxy. On the underside, I'm going to put the bow ties, and then there's another crack right here I'm going to bow tie, and there might be another one right here underneath. So gonna put a handful of bow ties in, keep this thing from cracking over time so it stays nice and beautiful. And when I said bow tie, I wasn't talking about wearing a suit. These bow ties are designed to prevent cracks from expanding over time. I traced out the perimeter of this bow tie with a razor blade, and then I used my router to hog out all of the material on the inside. I'm really careful with the router, staying away from the edge of the bow tie because I'm going to come back with my chisel and chisel everything right to the edge of the line that I scored earlier to get a nice perfect inlay. It's vital to get glue on all sides of the bow tie and on the inlaid portion so that you get a good adhesion once you tap everything home with a mallet. I picked up this dead blow hammer from Menards. It's super cheap and it works great. And then I used my Stanley number 4 to clean up everything. It seems like people's opinions on how bow ties look in lumber are about 50-50. I always try to put them on the underside of the table just to be safe. Now that I got those bow ties in place, I'm also going to be filling every single crack, knot, and void with some epoxy. I like using a fast hardener so you don't have to wait around forever for it to cure, and I add a black tint to it. Now this is my first time using a paint scraper to get rid of all the excess epoxy, but I'm not going back to sanding it. Every time I've sanded it in the past, it gums up my sandpaper so quickly, I go through it like crazy. So I just heat up the epoxy a little bit and scrape it all clean with the paint scraper. Last time I did this, I ripped my favorite pair of Levi's. Ironically, I'm wearing Levi's again today, and we're gonna try and do this without wrecking them and without damaging the actual top. Someday I'm going to build some nice sawhorses instead of using these crappy ones. It's just a matter of time before these things collapse on me. I just don't trust them. They're complete junk. But they're cheap, and that's why I keep buying them, I guess. Because I got way too much work into this for it to go south. Lift with the knees. And this is the worst part. Oh, that was not ideal. Wouldn't be a build not bought build without something sketchy happening. After going home and changing my underpants after that near-death experience, I'm going to put a quick round over on the edge of this table and start on the leg.
Well, we got all 4 cut as high as my dado blade can reach. I still have about 3/8 of an inch to go, and I'll just have to do that with the chisel. But this allowed me to get rid of most of that material with nice clean edges, and it'll be a great reference off of to score these lines and pop them out with the chisel. So these are kind of like a castle joint essentially, and the aprons for this table are going to intersect along the axis that I just cut out here. So I'll lay down the lengthwise apron piece that's 8 feet, and then I actually have to make a little half lap notch into that so that it sits together with the width stretcher. So all these pieces will fit flush into each of these legs. Now, I mentioned earlier that I had to score these lines, and that worked out really, really well. I don't know how well this will show up on camera, but I scored the line right here, and as this blade is coming through here, it started to chip out, but it stopped right at the line where I scored it. So that was a great solution to the problem I was having. And here on the other side, it did the same thing, went right up to that line. So using a marking gauge was a lifesaver for this. On to the next part, a little bit of chisel work. I've got to cut out all the aprons and then a whole bunch of sanding left. Here's a close-up. I'm sure it didn't show up on camera. You can see my line that I scored here, and it chipped out right up to that line. Here's a piece that chipped out that didn't quite get to the line, but definitely worth it. Spending the extra time. Here's another one. That way our lines are nice and clean when we're all ready to glue everything up. So off of the table saw, this is what I ended up with. And my thoughts were that I could get rid of the rest of this bulk material on my router table. I could just run it through like this, knock out this whole channel. Well, I tried that. Got about this far in, split this whole piece down the middle, glued this up last night. I don't think I'll be able to salvage this. I'll try to, but I just think that this is gonna be weak where that crack is. But anyways, I cut an extra one just in case I can't use that. These are just going to sit inside of that gap once I'm done.
So back to the table saw I go, and since I'm too lazy to finish these end caps with my dado stack, one cut at a time, and then I'm going to clean everything up with the chisel to get everything nice and flat. These end caps will just sit right inside the top and bottom of each leg with a little bit of glue. So this particular table style is called a Parsons dining table, which I just recently learned. And that style is known for having the 4 legs at the 4 corners. And I wanted to jazz it up a little bit. So I created this castle joint because I thought it'd be really visually pleasing to the eye. And I just made half laps in the aprons and then tap everything flush with my mallet. And these came together super nice. The fitment was about as good as I could ask for. You might notice the blue tape everywhere, and this was done prior to the dry fit and more importantly prior to the glue up to save me a ton of time trying to clean out all those tight corners. Whenever you get glue out inside 90-degree corners, it's such a hassle to clean it up. So I've found that putting the blue tape over everything makes for a much easier cleanup.
All right, well, the glue up went better than I had anticipated. I always get a little anxiety with glue ups, but when you have nice tight joinery and you take your time to get everything square and at 90-degree angles, it kind of just squares itself up as you tap everything into place. I went around and double checked everything with the square and just did light taps with that dead blow hammer. It works great for this kind of thing because it doesn't mar the edges of your wood, but you can get some movement out of those boards. Up next, I'm going to be focusing on the top here. So right now I'm attaching these corner brackets. I've got 2 clamps holding them in place, and then I pre-drilled and countersunk, and then I'm using some paste wax to help prevent these screws from splitting this beautiful walnut. All right, so I'm about to make a big decision on this dining table. I've been wanting to put shadow lines on a dining table forever, and I think this one could look super awesome. I've never done it before. To me, I feel like it's kind of a risk right now because this table is basically finished. I just have to put the Rubio on it. And if something bad happens, then I'm kind of like back to the drawing board, but I'm gonna go for it. So I have this bit. It's like, I don't even know what you call it. It's like a rabbiting bit, and there's different bushings that come with it, or bearings, I should say, of different sizes. And I have the largest bearing on it so that it only cuts a small 1/8 to 3/16 chamfer. And my idea is to only do these outer corners because those are the ones that are going to be visible. The aprons are obviously inset an inch or so, so you won't really notice those. But your eye is going to be really drawn to this cool joinery here, and I think the shadow line will pull your vision down even more and kind of highlight that. So I'm just going to do like these outer corners on all of them. Wish me luck. I don't know how I feel about this. The blade is stopped, but that bearing is spinning like crazy. I'm worried that this is gonna work itself loose, so I gotta keep a really close eye on that. But here we go. There's my shadow line. Nice clean cut. I think it'll look pretty cool. I mean, it's not like a major detail. That's why I kind of went with it. I didn't want it to be too much, but I think once we get that top on there, it'll look really cool the way that all lines up. So I'm gonna do the rest of them, and then we'll get the top back on to give a first look. So the holes that I drilled through the apron of my base, I drilled all the way through them, and they left a little indent where I'm supposed to put my threaded inserts. So I just set up my drill press, set my depth to the same height, actually go a little deeper than my threaded inserts to allow for a little wiggle room in the length of your screw. Hit that stop, and then you're good to go. So here's kind of a woodworking hack. If you don't have a countersink bit, but you have larger twist bits, I need to countersink these holes a little bit because there's a little bit of a flange on my threaded inserts. So just grab a bit that's like 2 sizes larger and just go real gentle here. And you'll create a little chamfer, if you will, around the perimeter of your hole.
And here's the first look of this dining table all put together. I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. Next up, I got to add a little bit of Rubio to bring that walnut grain to life. This table exceeded my expectations. I think for the simplicity of a Parsons style dining table, I really was able to ramp this up a little bit in design. And I'm really happy, and more importantly, the customer's really happy. If you feel like I've earned it, I'd greatly appreciate you liking, subscribing, and commenting on this video. I've had a little bit of an upsurge with my videos lately, and I'm so grateful for that. And stay tuned for more awesome build videos like this one here.
Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse.
And Kai wants to watch Mickey Mouse. So I'm going to have to sign off. Everybody have a good one. We'll see you on the next build.